The Cabinet of the United States is a body of top executive branch officials who serve at the pleasure of the President. Their role is to advise the President on all matters relating to their respective duties. The Cabinet consists of the Vice President and the heads of 15 executive departments. There are also other high-ranking positions that are considered to be cabinet level, although these can vary depending on the President. All told, that's 24 different people, all considered to be top advisors for the President. But who among them are most influential? Arguably, the most essential are the Vice President and the members of the so-called Inner Cabinet. The four original cabinet positions, which are the Secretaries of State, Treasury, and Defense, as well as the Attorney General. In this video, I'm going to talk about them. So, let's get into it. Who's on Team Biden? As Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris was the first cabinet-level selection that Joe Biden made. Biden chose her as his running mate for the 2020 presidential election back in August of that year. The vice presidency is considered to be the second highest office in the executive branch of the United States. VPs frequently go on to become President of the United States, and serving under the oldest president to ever assume the presidency, Kamala Harris's role as backup president is more critical than ever. Harris is also likely to be a particularly consequential vice because of her role in the legislative branch of the federal government. The vice president is the president of the Senate, a role that allows the VP to cast tie-breaking votes in that body. With the Senate currently split 50-50 between Democratic and Republican coalitions, Harris is extremely likely to utilize her tie-breaking powers. While Kamala Harris was the most obvious choice to be Joe Biden's running mate, several outlets, including this channel, predicted it. She was also a somewhat ironic selection. Harris ran against Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination and gained significant momentum after the first Democratic debate, with a crushing attack on Joe Biden's past decisions regarding race relations, including his opposition to busing. Harris previously served as a U.S. Senator from California beginning in 2017. The second ever black woman to be elected to the Senate, Harris maintained a solidly liberal voting record, but her political ideology has often been tough to pin down. As one article from the BBC points out, GovTrack, an independent nonpartisan website, lists her as the most liberal of all 100 senators. The New York Times labels her a pragmatic moderate. Fox News hosts call her a radical. Indeed, her policy preferences have often been enigmatic. Her shifting opinions on healthcare, for instance, were a source of damage for her presidential campaign. Back in 2017, she co-sponsored Bernie Sanders' progressive Medicare for All bill. During her presidential run, she introduced a different plan, which she also called Medicare for All, but which maintained a significant role for private insurers, making it, in fact, a public option plan, but one that was more progressive than the public option plan offered by Biden. Harris has often touted herself to have been a progressive prosecutor when she served as Attorney General of California. She's pointed out, for instance, her history of supporting the use of police body cameras. That's true. Also true, she personally championed a law that criminalized parents for the truancy of their children. As a result, some parents were actually arrested when their kids missed school. The vice president's political record is obviously mixed and thus difficult to define with simple ideological markers. That said, she certainly was never the most left-wing member of the US Senate. On the whole, she is far more moderate than Bernie Sanders. At the same time, her positions have frequently been to the left of President Biden. Antony Blinken was appointed as Secretary of State and confirmed by the Senate on January 26, 2021. The Secretary of State is America's top diplomat and the president's most important advisor when it comes to matters of foreign policy. The role has also historically been considered good preparation for the presidency. 6 former secretaries of state went on to be elected president, although this has not happened in the modern era. The last president to have served in the role was James Buchanan. When he was selected by Biden to serve in this role, Antony Blinken may have been a relatively unknown entity for most Americans, though he has held senior foreign policy positions since 1994. He was a member of President Clinton's national security staff and later served in the Obama White House. He was deputy assistant to the president and national security advisor to then Vice President Joe Biden. In 2015, he was sworn in to serve as Deputy Secretary of State under John Kerry. Antony Blinken's tenure as Secretary of State marks a sharp departure from the Trump-era America First approach. Unlike Trump's envoys, Rex Tillerson and Mike Pompeo, Blinken has been described as a mild-mannered technocrat who has enjoyed bipartisan support. He has promised to restore American leadership on the world stage and to take a harder line in response to Russian cyber attacks. He has expressed agreement with Trump's tougher tone with China, but says the better way to tackle Beijing is through international institutions in cooperation with allies. While Blinken clearly believes in international cooperation and multilateralism, he is also an interventionist. Blinken was a close aide to Joe Biden when he supported the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. As Deputy Secretary of State, he broke with Biden to support the intervention in Libya and advocated for more U.S. involvement in the conflict in Syria. Blinken has also criticized President Trump for withdrawing from that conflict. Blinken's philosophy of American foreign policy sees the United States as the indispensable nation, charged with the task of enforcing world order. In a piece for Brookings, he wrote, "Decades ago, we learned that to advance America's interests required building and defending a more peaceful, prosperous, and democratic world. Nation building at home and promoting the stability and success of others go hand in hand. We also learned that the world does not govern itself. If the United States abdicates its leading role in shaping international rules and institutions and mobilizing others to defend them, then one of two things will happen. Some other power or powers will step in and move the world in ways that advance their interests and values, not ours. Or more likely, the world will descend into chaos and conflict, and the jungle will overtake us, as it did in the 1930s. Antony Blinken has also worked in the private sector as a co-founder and managing director of WestExec Advisors. Over the course of less than 3 years, Blinken was paid between $1.5 and $1.7 million for his work, which included consulting for major corporations, including Facebook, LinkedIn, AT&T, Microsoft, FedEx, Uber, Gilead, the Blackstone Group, and Boeing. While Blinken has promised to divest his interest in WestExec, his past financial dealings with some of these corporations may be seen as potentially problematic for decisions he could make as Secretary of State. Also a potential conflict, Blinken previously served as a partner in the private equity firm Pine Island Capital Partners, along with a number of other former top national security officials, diplomats, and congressional leaders. In an SEC filing, the firm boasts, "We believe that with our access, network, and expertise, we are well suited to take advantage of the current and future opportunities present in the aerospace, defense, and government services industries." In terms of defense industries in particular, they wrote, "We believe there will be increased demand in the U.S. defense market for advanced electronics, communications, sensor, and detection processing, and other technologies that enhance the modernization efforts of the Department of Defense's military readiness. We believe this demand represents strong growth that our management team is uniquely positioned to capitalize on, given our combined investment experience and deeply connected partner group of former U.S. defense and government officials." 2 weeks after Election Day, Pine Island Acquisition Corporation announced an initial public offering of $200 million. It has also recently bought up a number of small military contractors. What's more, Blinken is not the only top-level Biden advisor with ties to the company. Another former board partner is Biden's pick for Secretary of Defense. Lloyd Austin was confirmed by the Senate to serve as Defense Secretary on January 22, 2021. This role means overseeing the Defense Department and acting as the principal military policymaker and advisor to the president. A West Point graduate serving in the military for 41 years, Lloyd Austin retired as a 4-star Army general after 3 years as commander of U.S. Central Command. Now the first black Secretary of Defense, Austin was also the first black general to command an Army division in combat and to oversee a whole theater of operations. As Assistant Division Commander for Maneuver of the 3rd Infantry Division, Austin helped lead the division's invasion of Iraq in 2003. Between 2003 and 2005, he served as the commanding general of the 10th Mountain Division during the war in Afghanistan, before assuming the role of Chief of Staff of the U.S. Central Command from 2005 until 2006. In 2010, he became the commanding general of U.S. forces in Iraq. In that role, he oversaw the drawdown of the U.S. presence in Iraq and the eventual withdrawal in 2011. In 2012, President Obama nominated Austin to be the commander of CENTCOM. In that role, he oversaw the development and execution of the U.S. campaign to counter the rise of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Some of his choices raised eyebrows. Early on, he described ISIL as a flash in the pan. He once argued that the U.S. military's primary focus for operations should be in Iraq, not Syria. And in 2015, he conceded that the U.S. program intended to train Syrians to combat the Islamic State was a failure. After retiring from the military in 2016, Austin began to work in the private sector. Aside from his partnership at Pine Island Capital, he's also served on the boards of steel producer Nucor and Tenet Healthcare. The very month he retired from the military, Austin joined the board of Raytheon Technologies, one of the largest aerospace and defense manufacturers in the world, and a top military contractor, which derives a significant portion of its revenue from the U.S. government. Janet Yellen was confirmed by the Senate on January 25, 2021, to serve as the Secretary of the Treasury. The Treasury Secretary is, of course, the head of the Department of the Treasury, which is concerned with all monetary and financial matters at the federal level. Everything from overseeing the manufacture of coins and currency to managing the department's law enforcement responsibilities. The job also means being the president's chief economic advisor, tasked with formulating policy around taxes, financial regulation, and the economy in general. In the face of a deep recession caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of the Secretary of Treasury also means paving a path forward to economic recovery. This is no small role, as evidenced by the fact that the job was actively sought by one of the biggest names in the Democratic Party, Elizabeth Warren. Warren's inner circle had been quite clear that she was more than willing to leave her already powerful job in the U.S. Senate in order to take over the Treasury Department. A longtime advocate for consumer financial protections, Wall Street regulation, and trust busting, Warren's appointment to this role would have provided her an opportunity to enact big structural change. Obviously, Biden went in a different direction, one that, compared to Warren, is significantly friendlier to moderate Democrats, Republicans, and Wall Street. Janet Yellen is now the first person in American history to have led the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, and the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Beginning her career as an academic, Yellen was a professor of economics at Harvard during the 1970s and UC Berkeley during the 1980s. Yellen has been classified as a Keynesian economist, and along with her husband George Akerlof, introduced a doctrine called the fair wage effort hypothesis. Essentially, the idea is that underpaid workers withdraw effort proportionally, so firms seeking to maximize profits should pay workers fairly. In between academic posts, Yellen began working at the Federal Reserve Board in 1976. In 1994, President Bill Clinton appointed Yellen to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and 3 years later made her the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. In 2004, she served as the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. And in 2010, Barack Obama appointed her vice chair of the Federal Reserve. In 2014, she would succeed Ben Bernanke as chair of the Federal Reserve, a post she served in until 2018. As one of her last actions in that role, Yellen proved a willingness to go after Wall Street shenanigans. In response to what it called the bank's widespread consumer abuses, the Fed imposed a cap on the growth of Wells Fargo until it met certain conditions. That action was praised by none other than Elizabeth Warren, who tweeted, "Chair Yellen's decision today to freeze the growth of Wells Fargo until it shapes up also demonstrates that we have the tools to rein in Wall Street, if our regulators have the guts to use them. This one hits them where it hurts." That said, Yellen is no progressive darling. As Politico reports, in the past 2 years, President-elect Joe Biden's pick to be Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, has raked in more than $7.2 million in speaking fees from Wall Street and large corporations, including Citi, Goldman Sachs, Google, City National Bank, UBS, Citadel LLC, Barclays, Credit Suisse, Salesforce, and more. If Hillary Clinton frustrated the left in 2016 because of her paid Wall Street speeches, it's difficult to see why Yellen would get a pass for similar misdeeds. The fact that she has profited from the very firms she is once again tasked to regulate could easily be seen as a conflict of interest. For Attorney General, Joe Biden nominated Merrick Garland, who will face a Senate confirmation hearing on February 22, 2021. The United States Attorney General heads up the Department of Justice, is the top lawyer for the federal government, and the principal advisor for the President of the United States on all legal matters. Biden's selection of Merrick Garland as AG serves first and foremost as a reminder of a contentious chapter in recent history, when in the last year of his presidency, Barack Obama nominated Garland to serve as a justice of the Supreme Court. The Republican majority in the Senate refused to hold a hearing for the notably moderate pick, insisting that the next president to be elected should make the selection. The stonewalling was successful, and the vacancy was eventually filled by President Donald Trump's appointee, Neil Gorsuch. Notably, Senate Republicans upheld the exact opposite principle just 4 years later, after the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Senate Republicans rushed to confirm then-President Trump's pick of Amy Coney Barrett just days prior to the 2020 presidential election, which, as it so happens, resulted in the ousting of President Trump from the office. A Harvard Law School graduate, Garland served as a law clerk for Justice William Brennan of the U.S. Supreme Court before becoming Special Assistant to Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti during the Carter administration. Throughout the 1980s, he practiced corporate litigation at the law firm Arnold & Porter and became an assistant U.S. attorney in D.C. in 1989. There, Garland was one of the principal prosecutors handling the famous case of D.C. Mayor Marion Barry. Joining the Clinton administration in 1993 as Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Garland had a supervisory role in a number of other high-profile cases, including the prosecution of Ted Kaczynski and the prosecution of Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. Garland joined the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia in 1997 and became Chief Judge of the D.C. Circuit in 2013. Garland's work there earned him a reputation for moderation and centrism, a reputation that helped him garner Obama's nomination for the Supreme Court and Biden's nomination for AG. Obama, knowing that his nomination would be blocked, calculated that a moderate choice like Garland would be seen as a consensus nominee, which would put Republicans on the spot. For Biden, the selection of a centrist for Attorney General fits into his vision of unity and lofty goal of healing a divided nation. Joe Biden's selections for the top jobs in the executive branch gives us critical insight into how his administration will tackle policy issues going forward. Knowing the heads of departments gives us a good sense of how those departments will be managed, and knowing cabinet members gives us a good sense of how the president will be advised. Biden's selections also give us direct insight into the president's own thinking. Each of his carefully selected nominees are likely to embody his philosophy in their given areas of expertise. Beyond policy, Biden's picks have serious political ramifications as well. As with all major decisions the president faces, his choices have the power to mobilize support amongst some and alienate others. In a word, his cabinet picks may be essential in determining the answer to this question about American voters. Who's on Team Biden?
I'm with the club posted by the marina, eating fruits, looking at views that you never could dream of. Getting served all this paper, I'm not talking subpoena. Gotta flow like a river, but you won't find one that's cleaner. No stunt double, I do my own tricks. I got hits on hits, this like my bat flip. Mind on my money, low in my palm.